They say it started like a wildfire. It's kind of funny that you had me written off dead. Now we're coming for the empire. So now you love me, but you ain't seen nothing yet. Go tell and watch me, keep your eyes on me. I got you sleeping before, and now I'm in your head. You get closing, the doors are open. Now you ain't seen nothing yet. They say it's starting like a wildfire. I feel it spreading in a new wave out right now. Change the game, building an empire. If you're ready, we can start it up. We can spark this right now.
I hear the roar of the wildfire. It makes me wanna aim higher. We have to take control. I'm always chasing the path I'm facing, ignites the fire. Time to take what's yours. Stand and watch us, keep your eyes on us. Always leaving our mark, living in your head. Can't contain us, there's no escaping. Now you ain't seen nothing yet. They say it's starting like a wildfire. I feel it spreading in a new wave out right now. Change the game, build an empire. If you're ready, we can spark it up. We can spark this all right now.
We're just getting started. Fire in the blood, but we're still cold-hearted. Eyes on the prize, do what we gotta do to secure our rise. Like pioneers with no fear, never back down, this our frontier. Ash on the path, don't get too near. Blazing a trail, never adhere. Yeah, the road we chose is only built for the pros, and we can walk through the highs and the lows, lunches and throws. Got the crown, never letting it go. Royalty, you ain't getting the throne. Leaders of a new empire, clawed our way up from the muck and the mire. Nothing will take from us all these desires. We're at the summit, we're still going higher. We are the crucible, we are the fire.
Like a wildfire. I feel it spreading in a new wave out right now. Change the game, build an empire. If you're ready, we can spark it up. We can spark. They say it's starting like a wildfire. I feel it spreading in a new wave out right now. Change the game, build an empire. If you're ready, we can spark it up. We can spark this all right now.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Brian Andesian and joined with me, as always, is the one and only Dr. Manhattan of our show here, Mr. Eric Squid Sportshead Watkins. And before we get our normal League of Legends show started, we want to take a few moments here on behalf of the Broadhurst Watkins Sports Report and the Not a Network as a whole to offer our prayers to Damar Hamlin, who was injured last night in the course of the Bengals-Bills football game.
When you have moments like this, especially when it was just out of nowhere and it's unexpected, it is extremely tragic. We offer thoughts, prayers, well wishes, everything, and hope that there is at least a very good outcome. We will definitely go over this in more depth on Thursday. Be prepared.
like I said, our thoughts and prayers are with Damar Hamlin, his family, the Bills, and everyone else affected by this. We're going to take a quick moment of silence here. With that said, welcome to Parallel Convergence. I am, as always, Andesian. I got Dr. Manhattan here with me. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Oh, hooray for 2023. It's not like there was a bunch of news or anything that came out or, I don't know, major disruptions based on former sponsors and financial trials or anything of that nature.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like the our holiday break wasn't filled with news or anything. No, not at all. Mother. Can't people just take a week off?
Apparently not.
So yeah, we're gonna open up the show on some news that was released a few hours ago. As we go ahead and check the tweets.
Oh, wait a minute. Why did it? What the? Oh, I was looking in the wrong section.
Tweeting, ephemeral, fleeting, Google Web, Space Code, Split Zone, Ask Mode, checks the tweets, und also E-Mails.
So we got a tweet out of one Mr. James Patterson a few hours ago, about 7 hours ago, give or take, where he posts, and I will quote, "Hey all, after nearly a decade of being the face that welcomes you to the LCS, it is with a swirl of emotions that I announce I will not be returning to the LCS in the same capacity this year. I know that there will immediately be many questions around why this is, but in short, the new direction of the LCS doesn't have a need for a consistent host. Having said that, I will still be involved from time to time for key moments and some content. My team is in active discussions with Riot to figure out more ways we can work together in 2023, as I want to be involved with the LCS as much as I possibly can. In much of the same way I found myself serendipitously a part of the LCS, I am now moving on to the next chapter of my career. For the first time in 10 years, I'm available to branch out and work on new things, and I'll be discussing what that could." I swear I need to get a new mic cable. Sorry. I am exceedingly grateful to Riot for taking a chance on a relative nobody 10 years ago and giving me the time, support, and opportunity to grow into the host that I am today. Thanks for the love and support thus far. Can't wait for what's next. Stay healthy, stay safe, and be good to each other.
Well, I had mentioned, I figured that they were going to go more of the hostless route. Hopefully, do it right.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead and finish.
Because if not, then just having a lot of the intense action, and yeah, you're going to have play-by-play and everything, but even between games, if you don't have better people who can have specific narratives and everything like that, like we're used to seeing with international events, they're going to run into some bigger problems than just rescheduling in Valorant.
Yeah. So apparently this is, see, I first saw this a few hours ago, right? This is breaking news, right? Like I'd play the breaking news music, but I don't give two fucks, and we met that boat sailed. I saw this, and I'll be honest with you, I immediately thought, oh shit, here we go. Here's the knockoff effects of FTX money imploding on Riot. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I come to find out through some various discords that I'm in that love to talk about esports. I missed Dash's stream, and apparently his VOD is unavailable, unfortunately, at least right now. So hopefully he goes in and publishes his VOD if he didn't delete it, or maybe he did delete it intentionally, who knows. But apparently he said on his VOD that he got a random phone call from his agent sometime back in, I believe it was August, right before the LCS finals. He was sitting in Riot's parking lot, like literally pulling into Riot's parking lot, about to go tape, content for the upcoming week of playoffs. And he gets a phone call from his agent saying, hey, Riot's firing you. They don't want to host for next season. Which leads me to believe this is more due to the Valorant bullshit. Yeah, I said it. You know what? I'm pulling a fucking Booger McFarland and a Susie Colbert. I don't give two fucks today. I'm not pulling any punches on Riot today.
Wanted to make sure you were full screened for that. It sense it coming.
I really don't give two fucks today. No punches are going to be pulled on this broadcast today. Not after what I saw on ESPN last night. And we're going to talk more about this on Thursday, but my God, my immense respect and heart goes out to all those on-air talent and even the broadcast crew in general that had to cover all that shit last night and is continuing to have to cover this. And the way that the majority of them have covered this with respect and dignity and grace is just, yeah, it's amazing. My faith in media has been restored somewhat from seeing that. But,
oh yeah.
Back to this though, and me not pulling any punches on Riot. I think this is 100%. Riot is trying to indirectly kill the LCS in every way they possibly can.
I didn't.
They don't want to outright, because Riot knows how much backlash they're going to get if they just flat out come out and say, hey guys, it's been a great run, but we're sunsetting the LCS. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So Riot is trying to kill the LCS in any way possible, because if they do, if it gets so bad viewership, right? If the numbers are so bad, Riot can then justify saying, well, nobody's watching it anyway. Might as well disband the league. More slots for EU, more slots for other world leagues who are actually thriving. But I think the problem with this, right, Riot, instead of making decisions that benefit the LCS, they have made decisions that have hurt it at every turn, right? It doesn't help that our teams here in the LCS are honestly, compared to international expectations and historical performance, not that great, right?
Mm-hmm.
International teams clearly on a different level. But I feel there is more that can be done to, I don't want to say save the viewership of the LCS, but at this point, I kind of feel like you have to, right? I feel that more could be done to save the viewership of the LCS than it is to just say, you know what, we're dumping all of our eggs into the fucking Valorant basket. And that's going to be the end of that.
And I didn't get this specific when I mentioned what it could potentially happen and what Riot was thinking about with Valorant, but in a way, I kind of told you so. I mean, I mentioned, hey, a possibility of League as a whole, but with all of this with LCS specifically, the argument, as you say, can be made. I think we're after not necessarily this split, but by the end of the season, you'll see where Riot's loyalties are going to lie here in NA when it comes to what game they really want to push.
I kind of have to sit here and wonder, right? What is Riot's backup plan? Does Riot even have a backup plan when this shit goes south? I don't
No.
think this is a matter of if, right? Riot is sitting here and they say they have all of this empirical data about how, you know, viewership will be better if we put this at noon Pacific time, right? On a fucking Thursday. And I don't see it. I don't think the data exists. If you want my honest to God truth or opinion on the matter, not that anybody's asking me, but I am wondering, right? Does Riot have the backup plan? Does Riot go in and say, okay, viewership is averaging 3,500 people a game, which I think is an honest to God assessment, right? I legitimately believe that viewership is probably not going to is going to average 3,500. Maybe it peaks at 10K for the hype games, right? The high profile games that everybody wants to see.
Mm-hmm.
But does Riot have a backup plan? Does Riot say, say come MSI or come playoffs, right? Okay, this shit ain't working. We seriously need to just rent another studio space so both of these fucking products can be on the weekends and get the necessary staff to do it, right? I can imagine for the most part, Valorant and LCS probably have separate staffs to begin with. Maybe they're sharing some shared staff based on the production facility, but you're in fucking Beverly Hills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're in what is the else? I'm gonna look it up because I forgot what part of. Yeah, they're off of they're in LA, right? Like the LCS arena is near Santa Monica. It's between Santa Monica and West LA, right? Like that is not exactly an area where you're not going to find whatever you need as far as production people rather quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you put out a call and say, I need some grips, I need some this, I need some that, if they need to hire a producer or whatever, they're going to find that very quickly based on where they are, right? They are not like exactly, they're pretty near Television City. So I can't imagine that. I mean, I imagine that has to be the backup plan at this point, right? If this shit fails so bad, you've got to sit there and go, okay, let's just rent another studio out until we can buy another studio or expand, because Riot's, my understanding is Riot recently bought some real estate in their general footprint area there, of where Riot's corporate campus is currently located. But I can't imagine that they can't find some real estate nearby there that they can gobble up and transform into another studio like they did for the LCS arena. Right?
And when I think with a lot of this,
or what or sorry, the Riot Games Arena, as they've now renamed it. But what bugs me, right? Circling back around to the current topic on hand here, is here's a man who was told before Worlds, before summer playoffs, that he doesn't have a job next year. Here's a man that goes out, does the rest of the LCS summer season, does LCS playoffs, does Worlds, and wins esports host of the fucking year at the Game Awards, the entire time knowing in the back of his head, I don't have a fucking job next year. And Riot is literally throwing away top tier talent here. This isn't, hey, I'm retiring. Hey, I'm going to do something else. This is, legitimate. Hey, we don't need you. And that's just, I don't understand how you can do that with a guy who just won esports host of the year. Like, you've got the pinnacle in on-air hosting talent, right? And you're just going to say, no, we're going in a different direction. What the hell are they going to do on the desk? Are they even going to have an analyst desk next year? We don't even know, right? Like, are they going to force the play-by-play and the color guys to also act as hosts? Does this mean they're going to be getting rid of the interviews? I mean, we've already seen, we saw Avali get cut from the broadcast as an interviewer this year. Pretty sure that was this year.
I mean, if anything, and I've kind of got 2 points. As far as this with the format, maybe they feel that if it's something more stripped down and focused on the play itself, they would probably see that as better as well as more economical, which I tend to disagree with. But also with the real estate, that is a bit of weird timing because, especially in that part of California, in this economy with business real estate, and with what they're losing with FTX, they inadvertently created a major snowball for themselves in that process.
How do you figure? Because I'm not following.
Santa Monica ain't cheap.
No, you're not wrong. But I
And
imagine it's got to be cheaper than normal with a lot of, businesses and stuff abandoning their traditional office space. I
and
mean,
this is the
I
well,
can't imagine just, based on what I know, because we have said I drink and I know things.
true.
We have a button for that. I'll let you find it. But I can't imagine that it can't be too entirely difficult to find, even if it's a legitimate office space, right? Tell the property owner, if they decide to lease it, which Riot probably will do, at least in the emergency short term, right? Say, look, we'll pay for it all ourselves out of our own pocket, but we want to renovate your office space into a broadcast studio. And then if necessary, go downtown to, downtown LA or Santa Monica or whoever the hell they need to go to and get the permit to do it. I can't imagine that process is that entirely difficult or, frankly, as expensive as it would be if there wasn't a real estate, a business real estate downturn at the moment.
Well, the reason why you're experiencing
There's obviously, we know that there's a residential boom in real estate right now, right? This is a seller's market for residential real estate, but commercial real estate is the absolute opposite. With a lot of companies, doing hybrid work from home at office stuff, a lot of companies that have all these, branch offices and stuff are consolidating, right? I know major companies that have shut down, offices with thousands of employees and migrated them all to work from home or moved them to another office slightly farther away, just to save on real estate costs and because it made more sense because the employees wanted to work and were able to work from home.
I mean, okay, yes, you would have that in those situations with companies, but the whole situation as far as, keeping the hybrid model and things like that, a lot of companies have actually been getting away with that so they can avoid that commercial real estate bust because prices haven't gotten as cheaper as you think. Residentially, yes, because of mortgage rates and everything else. But commercially, since a lot of companies have built wealth these last couple of years, commercial rents have gone up. I can't quite say in par, but they've gone up as well. So that's why I say, yeah, that is still a bit of a situation.
But it comes back to the whole point of, does Riot have a backup plan for when this fails? Because I know somebody high up at Riot is going off of some data thing that they've mined over God knows how long, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you know this better than anybody. Data can be manipulated any way you want it to be, right?
Absolutely concur.
So what I'm kind of curious at this whole situation is, let's see the data, right? Like, if you're going to create such a major rift
Mm-hmm.
in this whole space of the LCS, right? Where well, give me a second here. Let me refocus this thought. If you are going to make such a gamble on the LCS based on this data, you cannot just not show the data. And if you're pressed on it, say it's a trade secret or something like that, which I'm imagining Riot has probably done or will do if even more pressure comes out, right? I know behind the scenes, there have been casters and stuff that have talked about they haven't seen the data. They don't know anything about the data. I know team owners and like people with legitimate, serious dollar bill stakes in the LCS have been shared snippets of the data based on what I heard from an interview between Papa Smithy and Travis Gafford. Like some information has been shared to these teams in the context of, you know, the information being used to guide this decision-making process. But honestly, that information, I feel like, should be public, right? What is Riot losing by keeping this information private and saying it's a trade secret? Like,
Because
do they honestly believe that, like, is it, you know, or is their whole point we're keeping this data private because we want to use our viewership information to negotiate better ad deal revenues? What ad deal revenues do you have right now, right? You lost FTX, which, okay, that's not the fault of Riot. In fact, last I checked, I haven't looked at anything in the new year, but last I checked, Riot is still tied up in bankruptcy court with FTX. Riot's attorneys filed a motion citing their agreement with FTX to back out of the deal. That Riot wants to back out of their deal with FTX. And they have asked the bankruptcy judge that is presiding over the FTX case to allow Riot to do that.
honestly, I think really you presented a solid argument in, I can't say you completely answered your own question, but the fact that, as you yourself mentioned, it's a trade secret. Why do you make things a trade secret? Because that everything that is a quote unquote secret is either very damning, it will make you look bad, or there's nothing there. Simple as that. And I really think, and that's why I said, I don't think they have.
No, I agree.
Plan.
I think trade secrets pretty much fall into one of three categories, right? It's damning information that you don't want to ever have the public see the light of day of, right? It's a legitimate trade secret where if the information leaks, the value of your company, the value of your product, your service, whatever, instantly tanks because now it's actually reproducible. It's what the fuck is the word? I just had it on the tip of my tongue here. It's reproducible. It's tamperable, right? You can tamper it.
Yeah.
It's infringible. Like, and then the third thing, as you said, it's just
malleable.
It's malleable. It's there, or there's nothing there, right? It's just legitimate. There's nothing here, but it's a trade secret because we don't need people seeing this public, but it's not gonna hurt us. It's not gonna harm us or hurt us if it gets out. It's just information we'd rather not be out in the public. But I'll take a perfect example, right? We'll use the parent company. I'm the CEO. I can classify, declassify, talk about whatever the hell I want my company. trade secrets, right? Our trade secrets, our code that we use to compile the game engines, we consider a trade secret. Why? If you have our code, you make us useless.
Yeah, that's why, you were, needless to say, very cautious when we demonstrate things on Lilags.
Yeah. Like our code, even snippets of how we do our code is, could be damning in the hands of somebody who is a programmer, much less one that actually understands how Visual Basic 6 operates. Yeah, it's a mostly dead language, but if you understand object-oriented programming and you see our code, then yeah, it's, you could probably reverse engineer our shit pretty quickly and
Jesus, would you get
make
out
a
of my head? I
better.
was about to say those exact words.
Oh, it's comfy in there. I kind of like it here.
Well played, Andy. Well played.
And you could make a better version and run us out, right? Our financials are a trade secret because I don't need people knowing how much we charge conventions for our services. Not that we charge conventions for our services, to be completely above the board. We've always said all we ask for is room, gas, lodging, etc. But I don't need people knowing exactly how much charging conventions for these things, right? And then last but not least, our internal SOPs, our the guidelines of how we run the company, how we outreach to conventions, all of that administrative stuff. It's not going to harm us if it gets out into the public, right? But it doesn't it doesn't help us either, because basically it would effectively give other people a template on how to do what we do at the level that we do it. So it doesn't harm us, but it doesn't help us.
Right.
And that's a perfect example of the 3 different types of trade secrets. And I think this whole Riot data thing probably falls into category number 3, right? It's like, okay, it doesn't really harm us because honestly, viewers, there are plenty of viewership aggregators out there, right? Like, okay, they're not going to get the exact number that we get off of our Twitch dashboard or from Twitch analytics directly themselves or whatever, right? Or whatever other streaming services. It's not going to beat the numbers that we get directly from Twitch, but they're probably pretty damn close, right? I would say probably 5% margin of error. Maybe even less than that. Maybe 3% margin of error on the major viewing aggregate websites that are out there, right? I think that Riot doesn't want to release the data because they know that they've manipulated this data in such a way and presented it in in such a hack job fashion. Getting a little tongue tied here. To make it beneficial to them for their argument of, we want the LCS off weekends because we want to give these primetime slots to Valorant, because actual data tells us Valorant is performing better than the LCS. That's what I really think is happening. Now, I don't work for Riot. I would love to work for Riot. I'll sign an NDA. I don't care. But I am led to believe, based on everything I've seen and me drinking and knowing things, which is by no ways or means scientific, but needless to say, I have experience.
It's close enough for government work. as I was always told in statistics classes.
I just lost my train of thought. I am honestly led to believe that some data somewhere is showing Riot that that Valorant VCS is outperforming the LCS.
Mm-hmm.
And so Riot is like, okay, dump everything we got into Valorant. We'll have League die a slow, horrible, painful death. When everybody gets sick and fed up with League, we can just kill it. Or at least with the LCS. The LCS has been a loss leader for Riot for some time now anyways, right? And I'm wondering if the LCS has become such a loss leader for Riot that it's not even a loss leader, it's just a flat out loss, right? And for those of you that don't understand what I'm saying by this, in the concept of economics, a loss leader is a product that is sold at a value less than it takes to produce it, aka you're selling it at a loss, in order to entice people to come in and buy other products that are able to be sold at a higher profit to make up for the loss you are taking on the underpriced object.
I can give a classic example of this.
Oh, I was going to give an example of that everybody could relate to. That's you can currently go out and see for yourself right now. Let's look at McDonald's, right?
Mm-hmm.
Buy one Big Mac, get another Big Mac for $1. That's a loss leader. Actually, okay, maybe more like when they do it for a penny.
I was about to say more for a penny, but I'm
it
aging
probably
myself.
Takes about $1 to make a Big Mac. But
I'm gonna age myself a bit with this. Seinfeld, the last like 2-3 seasons, it was a loss leader because it cost them more to make those episodes than they got in ads and everything for the ratings. But they pushed that as the leader of, must-see TV on Thursdays to get you to stick around and watch other shows that were more profitable for the network.
Yeah. But I mean, that's a loss leader, right? And for the LCS has been a loss leader for Riot because it's like, okay, yeah, we're spending money to prop up the league. The league is not that I think the league was probably honestly profitable for the first time ever under FTX. Based on the sheer amount of money that Riot was getting from FTX. If you actually go and look at the redacted version of the licensing agreement that was posted in federal court, which I'm not sure if you noticed, I linked it in our chat during our break.
Let me see if I can go back and find that.
I've already got it up. I'm trying to see if I can blow it up on screen here. Give me like 2 moments. I know I have it. Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. Give me 1 second. So this is the legitimate sponsorship agreement that was filed in federal bankruptcy court as an attachment to a motion that Riot made. But As you can see, they redacted it somewhat. A unredacted version actually was filed, but it's under seal, so we won't be able to see it. Unless somebody files a motion in bankruptcy court asking the judge to unseal the document, which, if we had real esports journalists, somebody would do. Oh, wait, did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. How many times has that happened in the real world? Journalists be like, "Oh, you filed that under seal? Nah. How about we're going to file a motion to ask the judge to unseal this."
Things
But
like the Freedom of Information Act and other similar things are very handy.
yeah, but FOIA doesn't fit in this circumstance. This
Fair
legitimately, these are due to legal proceedings. It's once it's filed under seal, the only way it comes out for being under seal is if a judge orders it. And the only way to do that is to file a motion in the case and you would have to, do probably as amicus or something like that.
Look, summon a bitch. You didn't want me correcting you on the other metaphor that you were going after. You know what I mean.
Sorry, I know a thing or two about these sort of things.
And I know a thing or two about the Stanley Cup Finals, so we're even.
You knew what I was going at there, though.
And you knew where I was going at.
But yeah, $12 million, right? They haven't fulfilled this full $12 million. I believe they said that they're still owed like $1 million or $2 million or something like that. But $12.5 million is definitely more than enough money to run the LCS.
True.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
When you consider the fact that in Riot's own rules, right, Riot will supplement or help pay for, at least the minimum basic salary for players in the league, because that's like the one thing that the LCSPA actually managed to get right. Like, it costs Riot a good pretty penny to run the LCS, right? They legitimately pay the teams money to be in the LCS. There's also the prize pools, right? It's not like, the teams are competing just to see who's the best. There are actual dollar signs attached to who wins the who wins the splits. Trying to see if I can pull that up real quick here. One of those, I know I saved it, but where the hell did I save it to? No, that's 2022. I'll have to find it, and I'm not going to find it right this second. But I mean, that's a lot of money. Right? And that's a lot of money that Riot is losing. And I am pretty sure Riot has gone back to the LC. If anything, I think Riot is, it's a major loss leader for Riot now, right? Like, it's not even a loss leader, right? They're not making up the money on the LCS by skin sales or, merch sales through Riot's website or at the venues, right? I think Riot is taking an actual legitimate loss on this. At least probably one of the biggest ones they've had on record. If I had to take any guess, right? And I think that's part of the reason why Riot is going in the direction that they're going. But or at least they're accelerating the direction in which they're going with the FTX deal falling through. But this couldn't have been the worst 1-2 punch combo ever, right? Like, this is legitimately Riot was playing Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and they just got hit with the one-hit KO. I don't even think you needed a 1-2 setup.
No, you really didn't, because it's like, the infamous whammy, and, well, especially timing-wise with this, double whammy.
Yeah, it's like Valorant being on the board, if we're going to use the pressure luck reference. Valorant is just the whammy being on the board, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's there, you could hit it, but you only got a 1 in 6 chance.
Mm-hmm.
FTX was, all right, I've built up $31,408, and boom, whammy.
You know what? Because I have to, since I know. Gave it away.
Say what?
The smirk gave it away.
The smirk?
Yes, the smirk.
I'm sorry, I couldn't not.
I know.
But, I mean, seriously, it's like the
No, but you're not wrong, though. You're really not.
Suddenly changed their name to Kathy, and, boom, it's all gone.
Not even with the pool table.
I need a pool table for Dad. Pool table for Dad. You got it. Or no, sorry, pool table for Toby. Oh, God, don't let me say his name.
Yeah, I'll explain that little bit off air. Less said, the better.
Oh, is there something I need to know there?
Not entirely. More like grand scheme, it's a thing, rather than necessary specifics.
Okay. Well, I feel like Riot is they've hit the whammy, right? They're sitting to 2 whammies. And now they're just like spinning recklessly, right? We got a tweet. Let me pull it up here. Since we're talking about drama, and Riot doing stupid decisions, Pastry Time, we reported a while back that Pastry Time was leaving the LCS, right?
Mm-hmm.
So GBay99, who is a well-known YouTube content creator for his documentary series, he makes these, anywhere from 15 to hour-long documentaries on various things in League of Legends. He tweets out 7 hours ago, right around the same time Dash tweeted, or slightly after, I should say, saying it's super worrying seeing Dash and Freak both leaving the LCS. The talent drain on its own is scary, but that coupled with the time slot move and all of the budget cuts is making me feel like an esports doomer. And then Pastry Time just kind of waves because, Pastry Time announced his retirement. And then, G-Bay says, can't forget you either, Pastry. And then Pastry comes in and says, while I'm very, very cautiously optimistic about my future, I wouldn't have stepped away from casting the LCS if it was solely up to me.
Hold on.
Dramatic doggo.
There we go.
I mean, if there was any time we would ever you sneak over to LC or the other thing to grab the dramatic doggo. Yeah. Oh, we actually
Oh,
have the dramatic doggo uploaded into our own thing now. Wonderful.
you're welcome. Yes, I made sure of that. That's why I was like, oh yes, it's down there.
But yeah, no, I'm. What's next, Riot? You got to fire Captain Flowers? You really want people to riot fire Captain Flowers.
Again, another valid full screen moment, and you're not wrong, but don't tempt Riot. We've seen them do stupider things before.
Well, we got 3 weeks until, 3 weeks and a couple of days. It's the 26th is when Spring Split starts. It can't get any worse, right? Right? It can't get any worse, right? Where's the goddamn... Thank you. Get out of my head. This can't get any worse, right? I am legit. Like I said it earlier. I am legitimately 100% concerned for every person, regardless of if they're broadcast talent, if they're a PA, the crew, whatever. Anybody who is affiliated with Riot or depends on the LCS as a source of income, right? Especially more so like the crew and the full-time people. I know the casters, especially the ones that have been doing this for a while. It sucks, but I would imagine they have been smart financially over the years and they have a backup plan. Right?
Oh, yeah, because we see similar situations in traditional sports to where a team lets everybody know, hey, you are fair game. Everybody's replaceable. The minute that message is sent, everybody just kind of gears up and gets on guard. And I think the same thing is happening here.
Yeah, and I think I you couldn't have said it better than what I was about to say. Is honestly, I think this was that locker room message, right? This was ownership coming into the locker room saying every single one of you is replaceable right now. We have no problems firing every single person in this room and starting from scratch. Except in Riot's case, I don't think they're going to start from scratch. I think at this point, Riot, at least it certainly feels like Riot is now at the point with the LCS where they have no problem shit canning the entire thing. And I feel bad for everybody who's involved in it. Because that's a lot of livelihoods. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That is a disaster of epic proportions if the LCS shuts down. Riot sits here and claims that League of Legends is the world's most number one viewed esport, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you really going to shut down? Like, I can't sit here and, like, I have a hard time sitting here fathoming how Riot can treat the North American English-speaking flagship broadcast of their game that they claim is which is, perfectly back upable, right? Of the world's most number one viewed esport. the way they are right now. I'm utterly baffled, and Valorant is going to kill the LCS, and then Valorant is going to flop in a couple of years, and it's going to tank viewership, and then Riot is absolutely utterly fucked. Because we have seen there is data out there that shows shooter games do not retain popularity on the longevity scale that games like StarCraft and League of Legends have. Plain and simple.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
There is a reason why League of Legends is the #1 world's most viewed game. Right? Okay, sure. You've got your, new younger golden child kid that you think is going to be the next disruptor. They may be disrupting right now, but I don't see it lasting. And Riot is just fucking up so much. And it's not and I don't think this is the LCS's fault either, right? I think the LCS is kind of just, Captain Flowers kind of alluded to this earlier, especially when it came to the whole, Bjergsen playing with Mr. Beast thing, right? You have the #1 YouTube creator in the world.
One of the, 7 channels that are Red Diamond?
Yeah. Like, you have the #1 YouTube content creator in the world who has publicly said on multiple occasions you couldn't ask for better free advertising, that he absolutely loves your game. He wants to buy a team, right? He puts together a tournament, and you can't let one of your star players go over there because of some dumbass rule that some owners put together fucking years ago.
I mean, it sounds almost in a lot of ways like, oh, here's the LCS. They're going to be one of our test dummies for stuff. And everybody is along for the ride. And what were they thinking with that bit? I mean, again, Red Diamond YouTube creator. I need say no more. If you know, you know.
Like, the amount of eyeballs that you could put on your product just by allowing this to happen, right? You couldn't and they wanted to do it for free. He wasn't even trying to charge Riot or Bjergsen or anything. This was legitimately a fuck it, I'll do it for free. And League still wouldn't let him fucking do it. And and I'm pretty sure this is League Global that all of these fucking things are coming from. This is the LCS, global head of esports and the Riot president. This isn't the LCS or anything like that. And that brings me to a clip that Riot that we got from Captain Flowers' stream earlier, right? And I'm gonna play this, and you're gonna laugh, but I've got something to put in the background over it as it plays. But let's share tab instead. All right, go ahead, pop it over. I need you to hit a button.
Okay, is it up and available?
Yeah.
There we go.
So, yeah, that's one thing I would like to. I don't want to see the LCS hold the L anymore for Global's rules. Like, dude, I want the LCS Twitter account to come out and say, we are disappointed in Riot Global's ruling, but we can't do this shit. Just start talking shit. Family Feud. Jerry Springer, that shit on the timeline. I don't care. Yeah, that's one thing I would like to. I don't want to see the LCS hold the L anymore for global rules. Like, dude, I want the LCS like Twitter account to come out and say we are disappointed in Ryan Global's ruling, but we can't do this shit. We start talking shit. Family Feud. Jerry Springer, that shit on the comment. Like, I don't care.
I got her quick out flowers. We got the Jerry Springer theme. It's time for Andy's final thought. And you know what Andy's final thought is today? Whoever the hell is in charge and is making these dumbass decisions at Riot regarding the LCS needs to go back to traditional sports fucking media. Because I'm pretty sure that's where you came from, and the shit that you're trying to do here is not going to work. You had a traditional sports media person come in and do amazing things in the LCS. His name was Ariel Horn, was the executive producer for the LCS. He is an Emmy-winning sports producer. Did amazing things with the LCS. Innovated a whole bunch of shit. Everybody absolutely, it was LCS, honestly. He left and wanted to go do his own thing. I don't, more power to him, right? I hope he's doing great. Ever since he left, the product quality of the LCS has gone down, right? Ariel Horn would come on Twitter, right? He was engaged on Twitter. You tweeted at him, said, hey, what's with XY? And he'd try to explain to you where Riot was going or what was going on or, at least try to give you an answer, right? Nowadays, you try to tweet at the LCS commissioner and Riot and anybody. They don't respond to you on Twitter. They don't give two fucking shits, right? The direction that the LCS is going in is unsustainable. It was already the unsustainability came in as soon as FTX collapsed. There is nobody here who is going to deny that, right? But FTX has only accelerated the instability that was already caused when you decided as a company to backburner the LCS. There are too many eggs being put into other baskets globally at the expense of North America. And that is not fair to North America. That is not fair to the North American organizations, to the players, to the staff of both those orgs and of Riot's own LCS team. And most importantly, it's not fair to the fans. Riot is taking actions that are alienating fans of the LCS that have truly, legitimately been there since day one. People who have been there, who have their bona fides, who actually sat through the 10 hours of Silver Scrapes and was there when it became a meme and it became part of Riot's legendary LCS history. This is not a good look. This is not the right way to go. And for the love of God, I implore somebody to please step back, look at social media, look at how the fans feel about this whole situation, and then go back and look at your data and figure out which one you value more. Do you value your fans or do you value your perceived data? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care what your data says. Unless your data brings you another FTX. just when you were on a fantastic groove. I was gonna say some of the faces that you looked like you were making in that process.
I don't care what your data says, right? Unless your data gets you another FTX level, your data needs to get you double an FTX sponsorship, right? Bud Light's going to pull their sponsorship. Are middle school kids buying beer at 12 o'clock in the afternoon? Let's think about this. Think. You laugh, but you know I'm not wrong.
I know you're not, but it's again the way you said it.
Like, look at your data and then look at your fans and tell me, what do you value more? Because your data is not going to buy you another FTX sponsorship. You lucked out on the FTX sponsorship because Sam Bankman-Fried is a league fanboy. What you really should be doubling down and playing Calcio to is fucking Mr. Beast. You're too dumb to realize that. I bet Mr. Beast would happily sponsor the LCS through Mr. Beast Burger or any one of his many freaking arms that he has these days. But no, you want to tell him that she can't have fucking Beardson at a goddamn fun charity tournament because of some dumb Riot Global rule that I'm pretty sure started in the LEC. Because of all the fucking IEMs and shit. What good is a league if it has no fans?
I mean,
be good to yourself and be good to each other.
I had to let that little bit play out. And
I was actually about to just start fading that down on the volume slider, so yeah. I don't, you know me, I don't get on my soapbox like that very often, but
for something like this, it is definitely warranted. And you made a lot of valid points because when you have any sort of league, no matter what it's in, you need to have two things in order to be successful. You have to have players. Otherwise, all you have is just a set of rules and everything else in a framework. And then for the players, you have to have at least a realistic amount of fans for what you want to achieve. You know me and how I am with sports. I watch things with, hundreds of millions of fans. I watch things to where it's like, Dr. Manhattan, what are you smoking? Where is this from? And why are you looking at this on YouTube at 4 a.m? Long story. But
no need to explain. I've seen you there before. No need to explain.
Especially now that I found some interesting stuff out of Russia. But that's for another time. If you don't have that,
you know what we need? I'm sorry, I got to stop you for a moment because I just had idea face level shit happen.
Okay.
We have Real Sports with Brian Gumbel, right?
Yes.
You know what we need is a new show on this network? Pure Sports with Eric Watkins.
We'll talk about that.
That's the name of the show. That's the name of the show.
We'll talk about that on the staff chat because I want to make sure that would be cool with Harry because I know we have our different things that we do in the all sports edition of the Broader Watkins Sports Report.
Sports in black and white.
When we're outside of the football season. But that can work. But to tie a bow on my point, if you don't have the realistic amount of fans for your expectations and what you're willing to spend and doing everything for your league, it won't work and it will show. And it will level out to that realistic number, whether that's high or low. And for Riot, especially with LCS and, as you said, a major market, you don't want to have all those sacrifices to where everything is going to be so low, it's unsustainable.
And that's the thing, right? I think there's a degree of proportionality that has to be involved here as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a European cricket network cricket match, I don't expect to draw more than 1,000 viewers on YouTube, right?
Right.
Especially for the time of day it plays.
Right.
Because that's not even based in the US.
Right.
But I'm using that as an example because that's something I know you will at least understand off the top of my head for the purposes of my analogy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for the broadcast value, for the production value of how much they put in and the entertainment value that it provides and everything, that is a stream and a sport that yes, it's good, but I don't anticipate or expect them to get more than 1,000 views on average, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the production value that goes into an LCS broadcast, right? ECN, at least to me, feels like, okay, we got a couple of cheap microphones, a couple of cheap cameras, and a computer that can stream it all together.
Yep.
And we put it all together somehow and it works, right?
Yeah.
Maybe this cost us like $5,000 for all the equipment and, we're paying the hosts $50, $100, $200 a show. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Riot, on the other hand, that's like, look at their studio, right? They the rumor is it was like $2 million to renovate that studio or something like that.
That checks out.
2.5 million. The point I'm making here is the proportion of which the amount of money that Riot has spent, right, and the prestige that Riot has built in its name should command and deserves more than an average of 3,000 viewers. 3,000 viewers is what I would expect out of a Proving Ground stream, out of an Academy stream between the bottom tier teams, right? I should not be sitting here in 2023 with absolutely every bit of seriousness in my statement saying that I honestly believe that Riot is going to average 3,500 viewers per game on broadcast. Riot should be commanding 10, 15, 20,000 viewers.
Easily.
The LCS, when it's on air, should be within the top 10 of Twitch streamers. With the moves that they are making, they'll be lucky if they're in the 1,000. Okay, maybe top 1,000's harsh. I'd say top 100. Because anybody with a multi-year following that streams regularly and has Twitch partnership status probably can average 1,000 viewers on a good day. If they have a really good stream, maybe they can get up to that 2,500, 3,000 mark. Right? Like, I'm going to open up Twitch right now and just take a look at, because I'm now curious, right? So Paul Belter is streaming right now former professional player turned full-time streamer, right? He's got 2,600 viewers. Sneaky is streaming right now. Not even playing League. He's playing Tarkov. He's got 1,100 followers, right? The most popular channel on Twitch right now, if I'm looking at this correctly, and I sorted this correctly, is a streamer named Aiden Ross. I'm hoping I said that right. 86,000 viewers. Apparently streaming just chatting. I have no idea who the fuck this guy is. Never.
Name is not ringing any bells.
Next biggest streamer is Kai Cenat, 51,500 viewers. Then looks like a Spanish streamer, El Mariana, streaming Warzone, 44K. Another streamer, Utopia Gaming, playing Tarkov, 32K. Tyler One streaming right now. He's got 18,300 viewers. K3 Soju, big TFT streamer, 15.1K streamers. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can look at this by game. League of Legends. Yeah, Tyler One is live right now. 18. He's the number one league streamer on Twitch right now by a mile. 18.3K viewers. Then somebody called, looks like a Korean streamer, El Milio R, 3.7K. Then a Spanish looks like a Spanish streamer, Crystal Molly, 3K viewers. Poe Belter, 2,600. Night Blue, that's everybody knows Night Blue, 2,200. Laura Lowe, Team Liquid, formerly of Team Liquid. Actually, I think he's still on Team Liquid. 955 viewers, almost 1,000. My point is, it is not difficult for some of these bigger name streamers out in the league space to be able to get more viewers than a Riot broadcast could. At least what we think is going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the sad part. And I don't know if Riot's going to try to like bank on VOD watching or whatever, or try to use data from that, but I don't think anybody is going to actually go and watch VODs. Not as crazy as Riot thinks is going to happen, I think. But the point that I'm making is, for the amount of money, right, that Riot puts into the LCS, they should definitely be getting more than 2,500, 3,500, 5,000, whatever, right? I know a lot of people are saying, you know, they're thinking top-rated games are probably going to be anywhere between 5 and 10K viewers, which I agree with. But that should be more, right? the LCS, when the LCS is live, it should be at the top of my followed channels chart with, 35, 40,000 viewers. Right?
Yeah.
50,000 viewers. Not, sitting there on life support. No bad joke intended. 10K viewers. And I don't say this to sound offensive or anything, given what we talked about at the very beginning of the stream, but I almost feel like you have to. Riot's going to need to hook up an AED to the LCS.
A, I'll allow it. B, again, you're not wrong.
Like, I expect this kind of shit out of a lower budget sports venue, right? And by sports venue, I mean league, channel, project, whatever you want to call it. Right? This is the kind of shit I would expect to see an ECN doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or hell, even an XFL, right? Like an arena like an upstart arena football or something like that. Like you know where I'm going with this.
I do, and boy, is all of that relevant over the last couple of years.
But this is not the kind of shit. This is like if the NFL, right? Let's just use a hypothetical here, right? Let's say give me an analyst desk from one of the networks.
Like, who is actually on it, or just like picking a network?
Like just pick a name from an analyst desk on a network right now. Because the only one I can think of is Richard Sherman from Thursday Night Football, and I'm not using that on my analogy.
Bill Cowher. He's one of the top guys at CBS.
Okay. So let's say Bill Cowher goes and wins an Emmy for best primetime sports host, or something of that, something similar, right? Because I'm sure they have a fucking Emmy for it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then CBS turns around a month later and says, "Hey, you're fired." And then they proceed to cut the budget of Sunday Night Football by half, 2/3, something along those lines, and say, "Oh no, this is not a loss leader. This is not a profit maker for the network anymore. So we're just going to completely dilute the product until the point where people would just rather no longer see it, and then we'll cancel it." And that's exactly what Riot is doing right now. Because on top of the fact, let's say, and I know they're not on CBS per se, but let's just say for good measure, Brandon Gaudin and Chris Collinsworth decide to retire out of nowhere. Chris Collinsworth legitimately retired. I'm just saying Chris Collinsworth because that's a name that comes off the top of my head.
Oh no, people would be ecstatic if that happened, but continue.
Okay, fine. Give me another name then.
Oh, even better, Mike Tirico.
Okay. Let's say Mike Tirico and Brandon Gaudin retire, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mike Tirico's legitimately retiring. He's, off to pursue other shit, aka freak. Brandon Gaudin isn't retiring. In reality, he got fired, aka pastry time.
Mm-hmm.
Continuing to dilute the product.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know those guys aren't on the same network, but you get where I'm going at with this.
No, I absolutely do. And especially in your scenario, if Tirico decides to retire, NBC would really be scrambling. especially after what happened with Drew Brees and everything with Sunday Night Football. That would be seismic.
My point is like, for to put this in terms that a layman would understand, like somebody who doesn't really get the LCS or hasn't been watching the LCS enough to understand how fundamentally huge all of this put together is, right? We're losing Dash, who I don't think you can really. I don't know if there is a name you can compare Dash to in the NFL. Honestly, probably John Madden. When you think about it, the man's been there from day one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's been a I don't know if Dash has played professionally. That's the only problem. I am going to check. Yeah, Dash was never a professional player.
So a good example
Dash came off of Broadway.
A perfect example of that would be like a James Brown. If you have watched NFL like pregame coverage over the past 20-ish years, James Brown was always around in some capacity.
But this is like James Brown getting a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Mm-hmm.
And then network turning around and saying, yeah, you know what? We don't want you around anymore, buddy. Sorry. We're not gonna, we're not renewing your contract with us.
Right.
And you get that combined with Freak, right? Who I think you actually could say Freak is a John Madden, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe a Chris Collinsworth, or God, who else has been calling the NFL for 10, 20 plus years? There's not that many names left.
No, there's not. Everybody who's been like OGs aren't the ones calling games. They're at the analyst desks. So I really see your point. Aside from someone like an Al Michaels, but then we saw exactly what happened at NBC with Al Michaels, and we've seen what's been going on with him with Thursday Night Football, especially this season in particular.
Oh yeah. But that's the point, right? You get somebody like, James Brown that gets shit canned by the network after winning a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get a guy like Chris Collinsworth who's just straight up retiring, right? It's like, hey, I'm, gonna go take a behind the scenes job here. You're not gonna see me on air anymore. I'm effectively retiring. And then you get another guy, pick any fucking NFL commentator, honestly, who claims they're retiring, but in reality, they're just saying that because they didn't want to say it didn't renew contract, or that their network didn't want to renew their contract, apparently. If that tweet we showed on screen earlier is to be believed, I don't know why he would say that if it wasn't true, right? Pastry Time's not the kind of guy that would just start drama for the sake of starting drama. I mean, we're losing a substantial amount of veteran talent in North America this year. Honestly, we should be fucking
like, I don't want to say worshiping the ground he walks on, but at the very least worshiping the keyboard he plays on for fucking Double Lift coming back. Because honestly, if Double Lift didn't come back and sign with 100 Thieves, and people are going to tune in just to watch that, I think Riot would be even worse, even more fucked than they already currently are.
Yeah, lack of talent and a lack of star power is usually a death knell.
And that's what's going on right now. Like, players are not building brands like they used to. Yes, they're building brands, sure. But we're not getting the same brand power and recognition that we got in, 5 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our talent pool for casters and stuff, it takes time for people to get acclimated to new talent on the desk, right? Not everybody is, and I know I praise the man a lot on my channel, and I have a little bit of a personal bias there, which I'll admit, but he is that fucking good. But nobody is not everybody is a Captain Flowers, right? Who comes on broadcast out of fucking nowhere, out of the middle of a fucking cornfield in Ohio, and is suddenly the best fucking play-by-play caster since sliced bread. Or, well, in this case, Rivington. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it takes time for people to get used to new faces on broadcast. Emily Rand didn't start out as, Emily Rand was shy as hell. Like, go back and look and like, Emily Rand, when she first started on camera and at Riot, is a lot different than the Emily Rand we see today. The community has come to love Emily Rand because of her encyclopedic knowledge of. Emily Rand is to League of Legends like you are to football.
Oh, I just know a thing or two. I've only been watching the game 25 years.
Like, she pulls the way she could pull statistics out of her ass is just something else. And how she knows the players and knows their like nuances and stuff. Like, that's what makes her likable, right? But it takes time to develop that with audiences. And when you have such a mass exodus of talent, some of that being preventable, you kind of can't help but wonder, is Riot legitimately trying to kneecap themselves on purpose in the most indirect way possible?
I can't say I didn't tell you so.
But that's kind of where I am with that. Is I like I said, you saw my final thought. I really hope somebody fucking sits down and says, look, we're supposed to be for the fans, for the players, right? We're a player first company. This shit ain't player first. But we have a couple of other things we're going to cover very quickly here because we're a little over time. Or at least what I would like to be for time. Because I'm trying to keep these episodes a lot shorter in the new year. I know you guys, for some of you who are, our loyal viewers, know that, when we get on Poetic like this, we can go for a while. But we have some stuff we'll need filler content for the next couple of weeks before LCS starts. So some of our topics that we had lined up, we can postpone off to next week, which is fine. That those ain't going anywhere. We were going to talk about the finalized rosters for all the teams. We're going to do that on next week's show. That'll be our big show for next week. Is talking about basically finalized off season. So be sure to be tuned in for that 8 p.m. Eastern here. Not a network at Not a Network pods across pretty much everywhere at this point. We do have a little bit of news here, though, real quick. We have a couple of departures and an addition that I do want to talk about besides Jat. Cloud9 taking a big fat L recently here. I Will Dominate and Cloud9 have parted ways after 2 years of I Will Dominate being a Cloud9 affiliated Twitch streamer. And apparently it's due to Twitch. Sources have it that apparently Twitch was going to cut, or actually did cut, I Will Dominate's ad revenue payout because of the fact that he was affiliated with an esports org. And between him and Cloud9 even trying to intervene on his behalf to Twitch and not being successful, apparently have decided that the amount of money that Cloud9's paying affiliated with them is not anywhere near the amount of money that he's losing from his ad revenue. So they made the mutual decision to part ways. I understand, but I don't understand at the same time why Twitch is making such a weird decision like that. But I Will Dominate is going to be an independent streamer now. So that's news there. The bigger news, back on the 29th, Cloud9 tweeted, we'll pull up the tweet here. This will probably be our last tweet today. Let me click some buttons here. Max Waldo is out. As I believe we reported during the off-season flurry of activity, Mithy had been promoted to head coach at Cloud9, and apparently that made Max Waldo no longer the head coach, which originally was said that Max was okay with that. But apparently Max has decided to depart from Cloud9 and is going to become a full-time content creator. And if we scroll down here, Max did make a tweet statement underneath here. 100% my decision to leave. I had an awesome 2 years with C9 and wish them nothing but the best. I made the decision recently, which is why I was included in their most recent team announcement. All I'm going to say to this is the last bastion of LS at Cloud9 is now gone. Or so it would seem.
The cleanse is complete for what it's worth.
I know that Max Waldo's coaching style and analytical style was very similar to that of LS's, which is why that connection was made to begin with. So yeah, I think you've almost say, hey, that chapter's closed over at Cloud9. But we wish Max Waldo the best of luck moving forward with his content creation plans. The last thing we're going to talk about today, apparently there was an Australian team that had a party in a car park, and a certain DJBJ wasn't invited.
Aww, I was wondering about that. Could have turned up with the sick beats, mate.
Well, apparently they went to the wrong car park. Instead of going to the Hungry Jack's car park, they went to the Macca's car park.
Hey now, hey. Okay, fair, but I've seen some of those treats that they have at Macca's, okay? Maybe they just wanted to get an El Maco. They're back. And especially with that El Maco sauce and, maybe a cone with a Cadbury flake. They're on sale for $1 for a limited time only.
I'm not going to ask how you know these things. But for those of you who are sitting here wondering what the fuck are these two on about, Australia's #1 League of Legends team, the Chiefs, celebrated the start of summer with what they call a gaming summer party, thanks to McDonald's, aka Macca's, as it's called in that part of the world. 5 lucky winners of a contest were welcomed into the Chiefs Esports Clubhouse for a full day of partying, gaming, and antics.
And for those of you who know this is completely unrelated to the famous or infamous Victoria Garage Sesh. Clear that out right here and now. I'll explain. I will explain.
Do we need the management not responsible thing on the bottom here? Because I feel like this is one of those things.
No, it's not one of those things, but I'll explain in more context later.
But yeah, no, they had a fun little party. There were t-shirts and hats with the Macca's logo and the Chiefs logo on them. And to quote a famous burger adjacent line, "A good time was had by all. I'm pooped." Now, if you want some steamed hams of your own, you could go down to Macca's and get yourself some. Not to be confused. Unfortunately, you will miss DJBJ playing his sick beats in the Hungry Jack's car park, or Skidder trying to get Krusty Burgers from Krusty Burger.
But I mean, again, you can still get yourself like a good frozen Sprite or Coca-Cola. All those products available at Macca's.
But that's going to be our show for this week. Tune in next week. We're going to be, hopefully, nobody else decides they want to, either get fired or quit Riot and LCS in a week. But, if it happens, you'll hear it here first on Parallel Convergence here on the Not a Network at Not a Network Pods over most, if not all, social media platforms. Next week's show, we'll be talking about the off season and spring split and who won. We'll have Andy's power rankings. We'll have to come up with something for that, like a graphic or something. I don't know. We'll have my power rankings and thoughts on who I think is going to do well based on the roster that they've put together in the off season, and who I think is going to actually flop. And you'll be surprised at who I think is going to absolutely flop, because it's probably going to be the hottest take of the season. And you can see that next week here on Parallel Convergence. We'll be talking about that and more. As always, I'm Brian Andesian Espinoza. Joined with me is Eric, Dr. Manhattan, a.k.a. at Squid Sportshead. Watkins, this has been Parallel Convergence. We'll see you next week. Are you expecting me to hit some buttons here?
I thought that there was something else that you were going to put up, but again, we'll see you next week.